Hello and welcome to our first content here of 2026 on the newly rebranded channel of the Kitbash Foundry. We have decided on this change of title to give a bit of a better idea of what we're all about here on the channel, and it follows basically from the feedback and the support we've got from you. Being more involved when we are getting to doing the bit of converting and kit bashing that it seems that like most of you want to view from us. So we will be working on the first few months still doing our requested series of the Dogs of Warhammer, and hopefully by the end of this series we're going to have a fully playable 2000 point army for Warhammer the Old World, having not had to really push ourselves time wise. So the project has been a joyful and not stressful experience. Last video we left off with one of the most flamboyant infantry units, lumping Krups fighting cocks. But now we're going to have a look at an alternative cavalry unit for our armour. And we're going to be heading off the map a little bit this time to the exotic wilds of Araby and see who or what we can find. We will be following the story of Werner Glock, son of a famous Marienburg trading family, who seeks adventure aboard one of his family's ships, eventually landing in Araby, where he is wrongly or rightly ends up being identified as Maktur, the chosen one. In a story of daring, he raises a cavalry force, which eventually he brings back to the old world proper as Maktur's Desert Dogs. So this will be the second unit of cavalry we'll be adding to the army, but these guys will have a completely different flavour and a completely different feel from the more armoured standard fantasy horse that we already built as part of the original 500 points. Using the Renegade Crane's army list as well, we have good options to represent different units on the table and give these guys a different flavour. So these are going to make use of the hiring Outriders entry into the army. The entry gives us the unit options to be skirmishers, the ability to ambush, and having weapons such as pistols, again allowing for a bit more variety in loadout and usage compared to the other smashing face cavalry that we already have with their lances and shields. This build is hopefully going to be relatively straightforward, as hopefully the main lifting will be carried out by the combinations of two companies' kits. And for this build, that's going to be Games Workshop along with Wargames Atlantic. Our first decision is going to be which mounts are we going to decide on. Now, there are going to be a couple of aspects that we will be guiding us in our choice. A lot of decision will be made on personal choice, so if you think there's another way to go is better, then you're not wrong at all. If you think there's other options, then please let us know. First of all, I'm going to look at complexity and the options for customization. The GW kit comes in two parts compared to the Wargames Atlantic, which comes in 5 pieces. Now, all pieces are interchangeable with each other. So if I was going to go with a large unit of horses, I would probably go veer towards the Wargames Atlantic kits to give myself a lot more options and not have a large number of the same pose models within the unit. But the GW at this point have enough of difference where it is not a problem with a unit of only 5 that I'm going to be putting together. Secondly, the loadout of the horse. We do not require the horse to be festooned in armour, as they're going to be light cavalry within the game. And again, both sets do not cause any issue again with this, and it again will come down to a personal choice. Final aspect though is going to be one of the deciders, and it's going to be scale. When we have the GW and Wargames Atlantic built models next to each other, then there's a distinctive difference in scale. Now, I know that not all horses are the same stature wise, but already having a unit in the army, one from my own personal choice to keep the scale a bit more equal across the army itself. So because of this, again, this is plunking me towards the GW horses. Now again, this is all personal choice. If you'd chosen to go with War Games Atlantic or another manufacturer or 3D print, etc., there is nothing wrong with your choice. Now, the issues with the older GW kits are the maintenance mold lines and often Grand Canyon gaps that we get between the kits. So we're going to have to deal with these at these points. Normally I just use standing sticks on models, but because there are so many lines to be tackled here, I went for a more proper tool and got out our small engraving tools to attack and remove the lines. Now I've got a couple of these tools. One that I picked up that was the counteractor to a Dremel, but just a cheaper one from a local hardware store, which has done some lifting for me in terms of engraving, carving, etc., that I've done with older models that I've had. But with the choice of bits and the availability to drop the speeds down, however, I found that it works quite as well just as a slight sanding tool to be taken to these prominent mold lines that you'd have on GW models. To have an additional hobby tool that helps to do these little jobs easier, straightforward, because if you had a whole army which you'd be looking at trying to put these together, then the standing sticks and the use of the hand powered drill would, I'm sure, get probably annoying and a bit tedious after a while. I know a lot of people will say that this is probably far too harsh for the miniatures, and admit the tool can leave noticeable marks, but these are more effective than making use of any of my older tools that I had before. Now I know I'm going to go going early here in 2006, but at my local modelling shop I have found this surfacing finish, which from what I can tell is a super diluted sprue glue. And if you wanted a very flush, smooth finish from which to work, then this is the item for you. I have no doubt that this product that may be worth your while taking a look at, as I know I'll be using it far more in the future, to remove those imperfections, to finally finish off those marks that you tend to get from when you're cutting the sprues off, etc., the ones that you just can't quite get rid of with a file. Maybe it's just a discoloration in the plastic itself, but just a brushed application of this sprue go over the top and then leave it to set just completely removes any of those final imperfections. So I'm sure that a lot of you, when you're looking at taking your modelling up maybe a little bit more of to a display level, and the removal of those mold lines is going to be imperative, then maybe it's another tool you can add to your toolbox. So pretty much then we've got the horses finished and the horses together, and our 5 charges that we're going to be used within the unit. So next is on to the riders. So here's is where it's going to be a little bit more straightforward to choose. First though, I want to check against scale. Because the WA horses, the War Games Atlantic horses, were smaller, it could be thinking that the riders will also be the same scale. But when we offer the two together, the difference is negligible. So we have the proper choice of, again, using either the Games Workshop or the War Games Atlantic miniatures. So this comes down to now a choice in aesthetic. The models from the Empire kits have more armoured feel, not the flowing, looser clothing that the more desert forces will make use of. So this really means that we're going to be going for the War Games Atlantic for the riders. Just with a simple weapon swap for a pistol on a couple of the head swaps, to a more Empire one, we have a small unit of riders built. So with the final undercoat, we are ready for paint. And because these guys will be from the exotic wilds, we'll be going a bit funky with strong, bold colours to give us a little more pop on the table. So what do you reckon to our build then? Any good? What changes would you have made? Is there any other kits you think we could have made use of? Please again let us know in the comments below, as we're always on the lookout for other sources of kits and other sources of inspiration. In our next episode, we'll be going on to the last of our main units for this army and trying to make use of all the lots of extra bits that we have from leftovers from these builds on these videos. So next time, we'll be looking at putting together some kind of random little unit that's going to be poking into the army. So let's see if we can make use of those odds and sods and little bits and pieces that otherwise will be floating probably in our bits box for years. So till next time, again, thank you for the support and the suggestions, and give us a like and a subscribe if you've not done already. It's a new year after all, and it takes you nothing to click that button down below and maybe join us here on our journey for 2026. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you all next time round.